Welcome back to the Oliver Stories. Tonight, you are invited to travel far away from the noise of the modern world, beyond crowded streets, beyond bright screens, beyond clocks and schedules, to a place almost erased by time. A hidden kingdom once whispered about by travelers, a city said to sleep beneath the stars. No armies march there now, no merchants call through its markets, no king sits upon its throne. And yet, some say that on the quietest nights, when the air is still and the moon is high, golden towers can still be seen in the distance, shining softly for only a moment before fading back into silence. So settle into your bed. Allow your shoulders to soften. Let your breathing become slow and easy, and as the world grows quiet around you. Long ago, before the maps of the world were finished, before borders were carved into land, there was a road through the great desert. It was not made of stone. It was not marked with signs. It was only known by memory, by starlight, and by those who listened carefully to old stories. During the day, heat shimmered over endless dunes. The sky glowed pale and wide above the earth. At night, the sand cooled beneath silver moonlight, and the stars hung so low it felt as though they might brush the tops of the dunes. Caravans once crossed that road carrying spices, silk, cedar wood, glass lanterns, and songs from distant places. Some travelers spoke of a hidden kingdom beyond the horizon, a city of fountains and libraries, a place where gardens bloomed in dry air, a kingdom that disappeared when greedy men tried to claim it. Most people laughed at such stories, but stories survive for a reason. And on one quiet evening, when the sun had sunk low and the desert glowed amber, a traveler named Elias walked that forgotten road. He carried very little: a cloak to shield himself from cold night winds, a small bag of dates and bread, a flask of water, and in his pocket a brass compass that had belonged to his grandfather. It was old, scratched by time, warm from years of handling. There was only one strange thing about it. It did not point north. It never had. Instead, its needle turned slowly, patiently, toward something no map could show. Elias had spent years ignoring it. Years living in towns where people hurried from morning to night. Years doing practical things. Years setting aside wonder. But lately, he had begun to feel something missing. Not food, not shelter, not comfort. Something quieter. A feeling that life had become smaller than it should be. So when he found the compass again in an old wooden drawer and saw its needle trembling toward the desert, he decided to follow. And now he walked beneath a sky deepening into violet twilight, one step after another. The sand sighed softly beneath his boots. A cool wind passed over the dunes. The first stars appeared, then more, then hundreds, then thousands. The desert night opened above him like an endless ocean of light. He walked until the moon rose. High. He walked until the world was only silver sand and stars. Then, far ahead, he saw something impossible. Two shapes standing side by side on the horizon, huge and silent. As he drew closer, moonlight revealed them. They were lions, not living lions, but statues carved from pale sandstone. Each one taller than a house, each seated upright, calm and watchful. Their faces were noble and serene. Their eyes were closed, as if sleeping. Between them stood a gate of bronze, tall doors polished so smoothly they reflected the moon. Symbols covered the surface: stars, waves, birds, branches, circles within circles. Elias stopped. The desert was silent. Even the wind seemed to wait. He reached into his pocket and held the compass in his palm. Its needle spun once, then settled, pointing directly at the gate. The brass casing grew warm. A faint golden glow spread across its surface. Then, without a sound, the bronze doors began to open. Cool air flowed outward, air scented with jasmine, cedar, and fresh water. Elias stood motionless for a moment. Then he stepped forward. Beyond the gate lay a city. White streets curved beneath moonlight. Pools of still water mirrored the stars. Tall towers rose with blue domes shining softly in the night. Lanterns glowed along balconies and gardens. Fountains shimmered in courtyards. And everywhere, there was peace. No shouting, no wheels, no barking dogs, no market noise. Only a silence so gentle it felt alive. Elias passed through the gate. Behind him, the bronze doors slowly closed. He turned. There was no fear in him, only wonder. He began walking through the sleeping city. The streets were paved with smooth stone cool beneath his feet. Vines climbed elegant archways. Flowering trees leaned over pathways. Water flowed through narrow channels beside the road, clear and calm. He passed a market square where baskets of figs still sat upon tables, untouched. Clay jars of honey lined a stall. Rolls of bright cloth rested neatly stacked beneath an awning. Nothing was dusty, nothing was broken. It was as though the city had paused, waiting. He crossed a bridge over a canal where fish drifted slowly beneath the surface like moving lanterns. He passed homes with carved wooden doors and glowing windows. Curtains stirred gently inside, yet no voices came, no footsteps, no signs of ordinary life. Still, he did not feel alone. The city seemed aware of him, not watching, welcoming. At the center of the city rose a vast building of cedar and white stone. Its doors were tall and engraved with constellations. A library. Elias approached and touched the handle. The doors opened inward. Inside, darkness waited. Then, one candle lit itself, then another, then another. Soon thousands of candles glowed across shelves and halls stretching into shadow. Books lined every wall. Scrolls filled carved niches. Globes, maps, instruments of brass and crystal rested on long tables. The air smelled of parchment, cedar, and warm wax. In the middle of the hall sat an old woman in blue robes. She looked up from a book resting in her lap. Her eyes were bright and kind. "You took your time," she said softly. Her voice sounded like pages turning. Elias bowed without thinking. "I did not know where I was going." "Very few do," she replied. She closed the book. "I am Mira, keeper of stories." She gestured toward a nearby chair. "Sit. You have traveled far." Elias sat. The chair was comfortable and warm. "Where is everyone?" he asked. Mira smiled. "Resting." She said the word as though it explained everything. Long ago, she told him, armies beyond the desert grew hungry for gold, knowledge, power. They heard rumors of the hidden kingdom. They prepared to conquer it. But the people of this city loved peace more than pride. Rather than wage war, they chose another path. They placed the city into sacred sleep. Gardens continued to grow. Water continued to flow. Candles continued to burn. But the kingdom slipped beyond the reach of greed. Only those who came seeking wonder, not conquest, could ever find it. "And me?" Elias asked. "Why was I allowed in?" Mira glanced at the compass in his hand. "Because once, long ago, your grandfather visited too." Elias stared. "He said one day someone after him would need this place more than he did." She nodded toward the shelves. "And now, here you are." Mira opened another book. "Would you like to hear a story?" Elias realized. More than anything, he would. She began reading. Her voice moved gently through the candlelit hall. She told of moon gardens where flowers bloomed only in darkness, of astronomers who listened to the music of planets, of bakers who shaped bread like stars, of children who raced paper boats through marble fountains, of towers where bells rang softly at sunrise, of festivals where lanterns drifted upward like fireflies into the night sky. As she read, Elias felt his shoulders relax. The weight he had carried for years, invisible and constant, began to loosen. His breathing slowed. The candlelight glowed warmly. The world narrowed to story and calm. When Mira closed the book, much time had passed. "Come," she said, "there is more to see." They stepped through a side door into moonlit gardens. Paths of pale stone curved between pools. Flowers opened in the cool night air. Silver, blue, violet, pearl white, their fragrance drifted softly. Trees carried lantern-like fruit glowing among leaves. Birds with shimmering feathers slept in branches. Water slicked quietly from fountain to fountain. The stars above reflected in every pool. Mira led him to a bench beside a crescent-shaped fountain. "Sit." He did. The water moved in slow circles. No hurry, no rush, no destination. Only motion and peace. "Every traveler arrives carrying burdens," Mira said. "Worry, regret, restlessness. The garden does not ask what they are. It simply helps you set them down." Elias looked into the water. He thought of years spent chasing tasks that never ended. Conversations rushed through without meaning. Days that vanished too quickly. Dreams delayed until some later time that never came. He breathed in the scent of jasmine. He breathed out slowly, and some quiet knot within him loosened. They walked farther through the gardens, past hedges trimmed into spirals, past trees whose leaves whispered like silk. past stone benches warmed by moonlight. At the far edge stood an observatory tower. Its doors opened as they approached. Inside, stairways spiraled upward. Brass instruments turned slowly on their own. Gears ticked softly. Windows framed the stars. They climbed until they reached the top chamber. The roof above stood open to the sky. A telescope of polished brass pointed upward. Mira placed a hand upon it. Look. Elias peered through the lens. He expected planets. Instead, he saw memory, a childhood morning lit by rain. His grandfather smiling over tea. The smell of bread in an old kitchen. A street where he once laughed with. Friends long since scattered by time. Then the image changed. He saw himself older, calmer, walking beside water at sunrise. He saw simple joy, a table shared with warm company, a room filled with books, a life not grand, but deeply peaceful. He stepped back. What is this? The stars do not show fate, Mira said. They show forgotten truths. What truths? That peace is not somewhere else. That wonder was never lost. That the life you seek is built one gentle choice at a time. They remained in the tower for a long while, watching constellations drift, listening to gears turn softly. Far below, the sleeping city glowed. Eventually Mira said, "There is one last place." They descended and crossed quiet streets to a palace at the center of the city. Its doors were inlaid with silver branches. Inside, halls stretched beneath painted ceilings filled with stars. At the heart of the palace stood a room round as the moon. No throne sat there, only a wide pool of clear water. Above it, an opening to the night sky. Starlight poured down into the pool like liquid silver. "This is the chamber of remembering," Mira said. "Drink." Elias knelt and cupped water in his hands. It was cool and sweet. When he drank, memories rose not as pain, but as understanding. Moments he had judged harshly. Mistakes he had replayed. Losses he had carried like stones. He saw them differently now, not as failures, as chapters, as roads that had brought him here. Tears came quietly. Not bitter tears, releasing tears. Mira placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Even sorrow can become wisdom. They sat beside the pool until the stars began to fade. The first pale hint of dawn touched the sky. Birdsong stirred somewhere in the gardens. A breeze moved through the open roof. "It is time," Mira said. They walked back toward the bronze gate between the lions. The city shimmered in morning light. Fountains glowed softly. Lanterns dimmed one by one. Flowers closed their petals. At the gate Elias turned. "Will I return?" Mira smiled. "You never truly leave." She touched the compass in his hand. Its needle shifted, then pointed inward, toward his chest. "The kingdom was always meant to remind you of what already lives within." The gates opened. Warm desert dawn lay beyond. Elias stepped through. He turned once more. The lions remained. The bronze gate stood closed. Then sunlight crossed the sand, and all traces of the city were gone. Only dunes rolled beneath the sky. He stood alone, yet not alone. The compass rested warm in his palm, its needle steady, pointing inward. He began walking home. The sand was cool beneath morning light. Birds crossed the brightening sky. A gentle wind moved over the desert. With each step, he felt lighter. He no longer needed to chase every distant promise. He no longer needed to measure life by speed. He would build something quieter now. A peaceful room, honest work, meals shared slowly. Time for wonder, time for stillness, time for stars. He walked until the sun rose gold over the dunes. And somewhere behind him, hidden beyond ordinary sight, the forgotten kingdom slept peacefully beneath the stars, waiting for the next traveler who arrived with an open heart. And now, dear listener, your own journey grows quiet. The desert wind has softened. The gates are closed. The fountains still flow. The stars drift gently overhead. There is nothing more to do tonight. Nothing more to solve. Nothing more to carry. Only rest. Only calm. Only sleep. Thank you for joining Soft Mystic Stories. May your dreams be peaceful and your night be filled with gentle light. Good night.